Welcome back to Global with me, Tim Wilcox. Now, India is one of just a few countries that has allowed commercial surrogacy, paying a woman to carry a child for you. But recently, the government decided to ban foreign couples from using Indian surrogate mothers, saying it was concerned the practice exploited poor, vulnerable women. But what impact might the decision have on the woman who has made a livelihood out of surrogacy? Anand, a town in the western state of Gujarat, is informally called the surrogacy capital of India. BBC's Yogita Lemai sent this report from there.
Saying hello to the world and goodbye to the woman who gave birth to her. This tiny girl is a surrogate baby. And now she's being taken to meet her parents. In another room, another new life waiting to be born. Farzana Chauhan is carrying a baby for an Irish couple. And with the $10,000 she'll be paid, Farzana wants to build a home and send her daughter to school.
I am uneducated and work on a farm. As a labourer, I can never think of making the money that I get from surrogacy. I want to tell the government that it's good to have foreign clients, because they pay us well. In
Anand, homes like these have been built for surrogate mothers to live during pregnancy. Many here are carrying the babies of foreign couples, something India now wants to stop. One of the reasons why India was becoming such a popular surrogacy destination was because it's easy to find women here who are willing to bear someone else's baby in exchange for money because they really need it. But it's also because there's good medical technology available here and it's cheap. The US, for example, would be at least 3 times the cost, simply not an affordable option for many couples. Like Rekha Patel and her husband Daniel, who went to India from the UK hoping to become parents.
3, 2, 1.
Gabriella was born 2 years ago.
Oh, yes.
This is our last chance to have a family of our own, and we took it. And there are thousands of families like us. But if it's taken away, it'd be a real tragedy, because we were desperate when we went. We were really desperate, weren't we?
Rekha's now started an online petition against India's surrogacy ban. But the government says women are being exploited.
That's the sad thing, that people are so desperate that they're willing to rent out their bodies, particularly since the class of women who's involved in this is mostly the poor and the illiterate and the vulnerable. So the government has a duty to protect them.
And so women here will have to find another way of giving their children a better life. And foreign couples dreaming of having their homes full of carefree laughter and noisy games will have to go somewhere else. Yogita Lemai, BBC News, Gujarat.
Well, Dr. Sandeep Mane of Origin Fertility Clinics is in our Mumbai bureau. He himself takes foreign as well as Indian clients for surrogacy. From Delhi, we're joined by Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Director General of Indian Council of Medical Research, who we saw in that film. If I can start with you, first of all, Dr. Soumya, isn't banning this too big a hammer, really, too clumsy? Some women rely on this, don't they, for looking after their families, for their economic needs.
Well, that's true. Like I said earlier, it's a pity that women have to rent out their wombs and their bodies to earn enough to either pay off some loans they have or to build a house. A survey that was done showed that most women who opted for surrogacy did it because they had financial constraints. So it's true that we need to offer them other livelihood options, and that renting out their bodies and their wombs is not the best option.
Are they exploited?
We've also come across many instances. Yes, there are many cases which have been reported of exploitation, of the woman having health problems, of the child being abandoned because either the child is born deformed, or the host country not being able to give a visa to the child, because, as you know, in most countries surrogacy is not permitted by law, and therefore baby born from surrogacy may not be allowed into the country. There are also concerns that some babies could be trafficked and things like that. So there have been many instances that have come to light of exploitation of the mother and poor treatment of both the baby and the mother.
Dr. Sandeep Mane, do you exploit the women who've come to you? Dr. Mane? Dr. Mane, can you hear me? Sorry, I think we've got a problem with the sound for Dr. Mane. Whilst we just check that, let's go back to Dr. Sumya. What sort of money are people paid in your experience? I mean, do they understand the contracts they're signing?
Well, most of these women are illiterate. They have absolutely no understanding of the contracts that they're signing. They come to a particular clinic because of word of mouth. They've heard from other women, perhaps that they've had a good experience. And so they won't know till it's too late that things have not worked out right. We're not very sure of how much they get paid vis-a-vis how much the clinics are charging. But in India, for a poor woman, even 50,000 or 1 lakh rupees, 100,000 rupees is a large sum of money, though it may seem like very little to many foreign couples. And therefore you can actually entice women to do this for very little sums of money.
Okay, I think we've got Dr. Mane back with us now. Dr. Sandeep Mane, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Do you exploit the women who come to your clinic? How much do you pay them?
Well, exploit is the word. Obviously, what is exploitation? I mean, whether we are forcing them to do something, or whether we are promising something and not keeping to our promise and cheating them, or whether we are not paying them well. I suppose when you say exploit, we are talking about the amount of money to be paid. Now, that is the factor really. Anything between say 3.5 to 4 lakhs up to 5 lakhs sometimes is the kind of amount in rupees. Now, in relation to how much is charged to the intended parents, I suppose that's where the argument lies in terms of exploitation.
Well, just break down the figures for us, would you then? So how many thousands for the woman, and what is the price you charge the client?
Well, the price to the client could be anything between 10 to 12 lakh rupees, which I suppose 10 to 12,000 pounds we're talking.
Or in dollars, so $15,000 to $20,000.
Yes, I suppose, yes, in dollars that would be.
And how much do you pay the surrogate?
Well, it's up to 3.5 to 4 lakh rupees, which is 400,000 rupees.
So what is that? That's about $6,000, is it?
That's probably, yes, in dollars, that's what it would amount to.
And do all the women who come to your clinic who have done this in the past, do they understand? I mean, are they literate? Do they understand the contracts?
Well, as you realize, surrogacy is undertaken by women who have no other way to get some income. Now, when they come to us, they are not really always literate or educated, and they may not really be sort of literate. But then we are explaining the procedure to them that is being done, and they are doing it with a lot of knowledge. There is a lawyer involved, and there are agreements and papers that are signed by both parties.
Dr. Sumya, are you reassured by that?
Well, you know, there's a lot of heterogeneity. I mean, obviously there are clinics that probably do it very ethically, but there are 10 times as many clinics that are completely unethical and definitely are exploiting women.
So you think should it be more regulation? Would regulation be better than simply banning them, Dr. Sumya?
Well, good regulation is one possibility, but then again the implementation of this regulation in a huge country like India has its own challenges. And one thing we must remember is that very few countries in the world allow commercial surrogacy.
Yeah, Dr. Sandeep, would you prefer better regulation of the industry?
You know, as an expert in fertility, I want to bring smiles to every childless couple. Now, those who go for surrogacy may be a small number, but I believe I have equal duty to them too. So when it comes to implementation of rules and regulations, I think that's where the government's machinery must come into play. And I think the selection of donors, you know what, every surrogacy clinic must be nominated, approved, accredited by the government, meaning ICMR, by the FRRO, and as Dr. Soumya just said, many people are just doing it without good regulation. So there are clinics coming up and doing one-off surrogacy in a month, and I think that is where the problem lies. There are some very good clinics, ethically practicing clinics, and they must be approved, and surrogacy, like for example adoption, Tim, adoption cannot be done by anybody in India. There are certain agencies. So if surrogacy clinics are approved and nominated by the government, much easier for the intended parents and as well as the surrogate mothers to get a proper service in these clinics. And then second part is implementation. It is coming down to the costing. That can be through dialogue, through discussion, that how much should be charged to the intended parents, be it Indian or foreigners, and how much should be paid to the surrogate mother. These are all issues that can be very well sat down and discussed, and a treatment like surrogacy can be helpful to so many couples.
Okay, Dr. Swaminathan, is there a risk that by doing this it could drive it underground and actually what women suffer could be significantly worse?
Well, obviously there will be very stringent punishments that will be laid out in the regulations for anyone found violating this rule. It has to become still a law in this country. The law is going to come before Parliament. But one other thing I would like to say is that I wish we could encourage much more adoption. There are so many children who are in need of good families and good homes, and many of these fertility clinics could do a lot of good by encouraging adoption. These infertile couples that come to them for treatment.
Okay, Dr. Swaminathan and also Dr. Sandeep Badmane, thank you both very much indeed for joining us here on Global. And you may be interested to know that the BBC has named 100 of the most inspirational women from around the world. We'll be broadcasting interviews with many of them. Just letting you know about this before we go. BBC News 100 Women season runs online on BBC World News TV, on BBC World Service, as well as our 28 global language services from the 18th of November to the 2nd of December. So look out for that. We'll be back in a few minutes' time with another edition of Global.